Humans had always been seen as one of the youngest and most unpredictable species in the galaxy. Unlike older civilizations, which had thousands or even millions of years to perfect their technology and politics, humans were still considered messy, emotional, and slightly reckless. Yet, despite this reputation, humans had always survived. They had faced countless wars, natural disasters, and threats that could have destroyed them many times over, and somehow they always found a way to endure. This resilience was something that other species didn't fully understand, and it often made humans both underestimated and dismissed. The news came first as a message broadcast across the Galactic Alliance, a network connecting the most advanced and powerful species. It was an invitation, but not to any ordinary gathering. It was a summons to the Deathworld Summit, a legendary meeting held only once every century. The summit was infamous, known as a place where the galaxy's deadliest and most dangerous species met. It was not a diplomatic conference in the usual sense. It was a test of survival, strength, and intelligence. Every attendee had proven themselves in ways most species could barely imagine. The summit was a proving ground. Only those strong enough to withstand its challenges could claim the respect of the Deathworlders. When the humans received their invitation, there was a mix of shock and disbelief across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had never invited humans before. Most species assumed that humans would simply decline. After all, the planet of Earth was mild compared to the extreme conditions that the Deathworlders considered normal. Human cities were built for comfort and convenience, with food and water available without struggle, unlike the toxic swamps, fiery plains, and radioactive wastelands that some other species called home. The very idea that humans would willingly step into such a dangerous arena seemed impossible to most. Back on Earth, however, the reaction was very different. The Galactic Council, the body responsible for human interstellar relations, gathered immediately. The room was filled with scientists, diplomats, military officers, and explorers, all discussing what the invitation meant. Many were nervous. The council chambers had never hosted a discussion about the Deathworlders before. Most humans only knew about them from ancient records, stories of their unmatched ferocity, and terrifying battles recorded in holographic archives. Some members of the council argued that humans should politely decline, as other species had done when facing threats beyond their comprehension. But others saw something different. They saw an opportunity to prove that humanity was not weak. They believed this was a chance to demonstrate not only human courage but also ingenuity and adaptability. After hours of debate, the decision was made. Humans would attend the Deathworld Summit. The team chosen was small but carefully selected. Captain Hale, a war veteran known for his calm under fire and ability to make split-second decisions, was appointed to lead the delegation. He had faced impossible situations on Earth, from hostile terrains to armed conflicts, and had survived them all. Alongside him was Dr. Lin, a biologist whose research on extreme ecosystems had earned her respect across the galaxy. She was curious, observant, and fearless, willing to explore environments that would terrify most others. The third member, Mateo Ruiz, was an engineer known for his creativity and quick thinking. He had a knack for improvisation, turning ordinary tools into life-saving devices in the most critical situations. Together, they represented the best of human skill, intelligence, and resilience. When the news of the chosen team reached the public, humans were divided. Many were proud and excited, imagining their representatives boldly entering the heart of the galaxy's deadliest planet. Others were fearful, worried that the team would never return. The media portrayed the event as historic, with phrases like, "Humans step into the lion's den," and "Earthlings accept impossible challenge" splashed across every screen and news hollow. Children watched in awe, dreaming of alien worlds and imagining what it would be like to meet species that could survive in conditions far harsher than anything on Earth. Scientists debated how humans might adapt to the extreme environments of the Deathworld, from radiation storms to toxic atmospheres, and what tools they might need. The excitement was electric, mixed with a palpable tension, because everyone knew that the summit was not just a gathering, it was a trial. The journey to Krathul, the planet hosting the summit, was itself an experience unlike any other. Krathul was a world that seemed alive with danger. Its skies glowed with strange colors, and lightning storms surged across the horizon like rivers of molten metal. The surface was dotted with jagged mountains that appeared almost like the spines of some massive, invisible creature. Alien species known for their hostility and physical adaptations populated the planet. Each step humans took toward it was a test of their courage. Yet Captain Hale, Dr. Lin, and Mateo moved forward with a quiet confidence. They did not talk about fear. Instead, they planned, prepared, and discussed strategies, turning anxiety into action. When they finally approached the summit, the first sight of the Deathworlders themselves was overwhelming. Towering creatures with exoskeletons that shimmered under Krathal's strange sun regarded the humans with curiosity, suspicion, and amusement. Some had horns, some scales, some tentacles, and others forms that were difficult for human minds to comprehend. Yet the humans walked forward without hesitation. Captain Hale extended a hand in greeting, a gesture that startled the alien delegates. It was simple, human, and unexpected, a display of bravery not through weapons or intimidation but through openness and composure. This simple gesture caused ripples through the gathering. Whispers spread quickly. Humans were not what they seemed. That evening, as the humans settled into their temporary quarters, they reflected on the day. They knew the challenges ahead would be unprecedented. The Deathworld Summit was designed to push every species to their limits, testing their ability to survive, adapt, and think in conditions that seemed impossible. Yet despite the danger, there was a sense of purpose. Humans had always been underestimated, and now they had a chance to change that perception forever. Their decision to accept the invitation was not just about survival. It was about making a statement. They were young in the galaxy, yes, but they were resilient, intelligent, and resourceful. They would not be dismissed, and they would not be afraid. As night fell on Krathul, with storms lighting the sky and alien roars echoing across the mountains, the humans prepared for what lay ahead. The galaxy was watching, expecting humans to falter. But humans had never been predictable, and this summit would soon reveal the depth of their courage. The journey had begun, and with each step forward, the human delegation carried with them the hopes, fears, and determination of an entire planet. They were ready to face the unknown, not as timid observers, but as bold participants ready to leave a mark that the galaxy would never forget. The journey from Earth to Krathul was long, but the human delegation traveled with a sense of calm determination that surprised even themselves. Unlike many species who relied on heavily armed fleets or protective shields, humans traveled in a single, moderately equipped ship. They trusted in their preparation, their skills, and above all, their ability to adapt. As they approached the planet, a strange mixture of awe and apprehension settled over the crew. Krathul was nothing like Earth. Its surface shimmered with colors that no human eye had seen before: burning reds, eerie purples, and streaks of lightning that danced across the sky in jagged patterns. The atmosphere itself seemed alive, humming with energy. The humans could feel the planet's raw power even through their ship's reinforced hull. When the ship finally landed, the hatch opened, and the first view of the summit stunned them. The assembly area was enormous, carved into jagged cliffs that rose like teeth toward the sky. Alien species of all shapes and sizes moved through the platform. Some were massive, their bodies towering over the humans by several meters. Others were small but radiated a dangerous energy, their eyes glowing as they examined every newcomer with intense curiosity. Each species carried the marks of survival in extreme environments: scales, claws, armored plates, and other features designed to endure the harshest conditions. Humans had trained for months to anticipate these challenges, but nothing could have fully prepared them for the sheer diversity of life forms gathered in one place. As the humans stepped out, the first reactions came from the other species. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Many delegates assumed humans would hesitate or show fear, perhaps even retreat once confronted with the dangerous environment and the intimidating presence of the Deathworlders. But the humans did the opposite. They walked forward with steady, confident steps, their posture relaxed yet alert. Captain Hale extended his hand to a massive alien being, a creature with 4 muscular arms and a face covered in thick scales. The alien regarded him for a long moment, its eyes narrowing in suspicion, but Hale held the gaze without flinching. When the alien finally shook his hand, a murmur of astonishment ran through the assembly. Humans were not supposed to be this fearless. Dr. Lin and Mateo Ruiz followed Hale's lead. Dr. Lin observed the local flora with keen interest. Noting strange plants that emitted sparks or changed colors depending on the presence of life nearby, she jotted notes quickly, quietly analyzing the ecosystem in a way that impressed some of the smaller, more curious species. Matteo, meanwhile, examined the equipment and technology set up for the summit. Where others might have ignored opportunities for improvisation, he saw ways to adapt tools to help humans survive in the harsh environment. His quick thinking and attention to detail did not go unnoticed. Even the most hardened Deathworlders began to watch the humans closely, realizing that they were not ordinary participants. The summit organizers made it clear that the humans were considered guests at first. They were told they could observe, that their participation was optional, and that survival would be extremely difficult for them. Most delegates assumed that humans would quietly retreat to the sidelines, overwhelmed by the alien environment and the sheer strength of the other species. Yet humans had never been content with being observers. Captain Hale, looking over the assembly, realized that the only way to earn respect was to show courage and intelligence, not just to survive but to engage. They would participate. They would not bow to fear. The first test of the summit was not a formal challenge but a demonstration of adaptability. Delegates were required to navigate the plasma storms of Krathul, an environment so hostile that many species had evolved special adaptations to survive. Plasma lightning tore across the sky in unpredictable patterns, striking anything that moved too quickly or too carelessly. Many species moved cautiously, using natural shields or defensive technologies to protect themselves. Humans, however, approached differently. They set up lightweight shelters and used portable flares to create safe zones. They observed the storm, studied its patterns, and adapted their movements accordingly. Their strategy was not to fight the storm, but to work with it, using careful timing and coordination to survive. Other species began to notice something unusual. While many relied on brute strength, advanced armor, or natural defenses, humans relied on cooperation, ingenuity, and calm under pressure. Where others panicked or argued over strategy, humans communicated clearly, sharing resources and guiding each other through dangerous areas. Dr. Lin even assisted an alien delegate who had been caught off guard by a sudden lightning strike, using her medical kit to stabilize the creature until it could move again. Humans were not just surviving, they were building trust, forming alliances, and demonstrating a kind of courage that was alien to the Deathworlders themselves. By the end of the first day, it was clear that humans were no ordinary species. Delegates who had once dismissed them as fragile were now speaking in hushed tones. The word spread quickly. Humans were soft predators. At first, it was intended as a criticism, suggesting that humans were lucky but weak. However, as the day progressed, it became clear that the term carried a hint of grudging respect. Humans were surviving where others had expected them to fail, and they were doing so in ways that were unpredictable and clever. The human delegation did not celebrate their small victories. Instead, they focused on preparation for the challenges ahead. Captain Hale held a quiet meeting with his team, discussing strategy for the formal trials to come. Dr. Lin shared observations about the local ecosystem and how it might be used to their advantage. Matteo discussed modifications to their limited equipment that could improve mobility and safety. Their focus was not on proving themselves to the galaxy, but on ensuring that they could meet the challenges of the summit effectively. Yet, unintentionally, they were already making a statement. Humans were capable, adaptable, and unafraid of environments that would terrify most species. That night, the human team reflected on what they had seen and experienced. Krathul was beautiful in a strange, dangerous way. The jagged cliffs, glowing skies, and alien creatures created a landscape that was both terrifying and fascinating. For the humans, it was an opportunity to test themselves in a way they never could on Earth. Every obstacle was a lesson, every encounter a chance to learn. Even in the face of danger, they remained composed, knowing that fear could be their greatest enemy. By the time the first day ended, humans had already altered the perception of the species across the summit. The Deathworlders, who had gathered to see only the strongest and most ruthless, had begun to take note. Humans had arrived calmly, survived initial hazards, and demonstrated qualities that other species often lacked: adaptability, teamwork, and courage without arrogance. Whispers of surprise and curiosity echoed through the assembly. Many delegates wondered, were humans really as fragile as they had been told? Or had they been hiding an unexpected strength all along? The arrival of humans at the Deathworld Summit was more than just a moment of presence. It was the beginning of a story that would change how the galaxy viewed them. They were underestimated, watched skeptically, and yet they had already begun to demonstrate that their survival was not dependent on brute force alone. It was based on intelligence, cooperation, and a calm determination that was difficult to predict and even harder to counter. By simply stepping onto the summit grounds and moving forward with confidence, humans had shocked the galaxy. They had shown that while they were young as a species, they were far from weak, and that the true measure of strength could not always be judged by appearances alone. As the human team prepared for the formal challenges of the summit, one thing was certain: the other species had underestimated them. That miscalculation, as the humans would soon prove, could be costly. For now the humans rested, studied their surroundings, and quietly prepared to face whatever the Deathworlders would throw at them next. They were not merely guests. They were participants in a test that would reveal the true nature of human courage and ingenuity. And the galaxy was watching, eager to see whether the humans could survive, adapt, and perhaps even change the way the strongest species thought about strength itself. The formal challenges of the Deathworld Summit began the very next day, and the atmosphere was tense. Species from across the galaxy had gathered, each confident in their abilities and each eager to prove dominance. The humans, however, did not arrive with arrogance or threats. They arrived with focus, careful preparation, and an unusual sense of calm. To most of the older, stronger species, this calm itself seemed like either foolishness or a hidden strength. No one could tell. Humans had never been seen at such a dangerous gathering before, and every species was curious and a little wary about what they might do. The first trial was survival in the acid jungles of Krathul, a vast expanse of toxic plants, acidic rains, and dangerous predators. Most species entered the jungle heavily armored or using natural defenses they had evolved over centuries. Massive creatures moved carefully, using brute strength to clear paths, while others relied on bioelectric shields or corrosive-resistant skins. Humans, in contrast, approached the jungle differently. They studied the environment from a distance first, observing patterns of storms, animal behavior, and the spread of acid pools. Dr. Lin, the biologist, noted which plants were poisonous and which could be used for camouflage. Mateo Reese examined the terrain and thought about how to navigate it with minimal resources. Captain Hale organized their movement, emphasizing teamwork, patience, and careful observation rather than rushing blindly. As they entered the jungle, other species whispered in disbelief. The humans were lightly equipped. They had no heavy armor, no energy shields, and no natural defenses. Most observers assumed they would be easy prey, but the humans moved with surprising efficiency. They set portable shelters in safe zones, used flares to illuminate dangerous areas, and created makeshift bridges over acidic streams. When they encountered a poisonous plant that could have been deadly, they worked together to neutralize the hazard instead of avoiding it entirely. Their teamwork was flawless. Where many species competed against one another, humans cooperated, not only among themselves but even occasionally helping small alien delegates who had become trapped or injured. Hours into the trial, the first signs of the humans' unique strength became apparent. While larger, stronger species were beginning to show fatigue, humans maintained their energy. Captain Hale's calm demeanor kept the team focused even when a sudden plasma storm swept through the jungle. Instead of panicking, they adapted. They worked together to shield one another, calculated when to move forward and when to wait, and kept morale high with quiet words of encouragement. Dr. Lin used her knowledge of alien flora to craft antidotes for minor burns and scratches sustained during the journey. Mateo improvised tools to protect them from falling debris and acidic rain. Their combination of creativity, intelligence, and cooperation created a performance that stunned everyone who watched. By midday, a dangerous situation arose. A predator native to Krathul, enormous and highly territorial, approached the humans. Its armored hide glinted under the plasma storms and its eyes glowed with intelligence. Other species would have fled or attacked it head-on. The humans, however, did something completely unexpected. Rather than fight, they observed, noted its behavior, and used their knowledge of the terrain to move in a way that avoided confrontation. When one of the alien delegates nearby stumbled and was in danger, the humans risked themselves to pull the creature to safety. They were not reckless, but neither were they afraid. Their actions demonstrated something foreign to the Deathworlders. courage tempered by strategy, compassion combined with calculation. The result was immediate. Whispers spread through the observation points. Humans were something different. Some began calling them soft predators, a term meant to mock them initially, suggesting they were weaker because they relied on intelligence and teamwork rather than brute force. But as the hours passed and the humans continued to navigate the jungle without succumbing to its hazards, the tone of the whispers changed. Soft predator became a term of curiosity, then grudging respect. The human's ability to survive in a landscape designed to kill the strongest species in the galaxy revealed an unexpected adaptability. It was not just their survival skills that impressed. It was their creativity under pressure. Mateo Ruiz, for example, used the jungle's natural resources in ways that no one expected. He fashioned a rope from flexible vines to cross a dangerous ravine. He converted a fallen metallic branch into a lever to lift a heavy boulder blocking their path. Small tools and ideas, applied quickly and efficiently, allowed the humans to overcome challenges that would have stumped even the most experienced Deathworlders. Dr. Lin's ability to analyze alien plants and animals in real time helped the team avoid dangers and even use hazards to their advantage. Her scientific mind allowed them to predict which creatures might attack and which plants might provide temporary protection. Even Captain Hale's military experience played a key role. He had faced hostile environments on Earth where the stakes were life or death. This experience gave him a level of calm that was impossible to fake. When one of the humans was almost struck by a falling acid-coated branch, Hale's quick reflexes saved them. When the team faced confusion in a maze of alien plants, he maintained order, directing each member to move efficiently and safely. Every decision he made balanced risk with reward, showing that humans were not just surviving, they were excelling under pressure. By the end of the trial, humans were one of the few teams still fully intact. Some species had lost members, some had barely survived, and a few had withdrawn entirely. The humans, in contrast, had not only survived but maintained their cohesion, morale, and problem-solving efficiency. Other delegates began to whisper among themselves, realizing that the humans' approach was unusual. While most species relied on evolved traits or sheer strength, humans relied on a combination of intelligence, teamwork, and courage. They were unpredictable. They were adaptable. And they were thriving in an environment that should have broken them. The first trial of the Deathworld Summit had done more than test human endurance. It had revealed their character. Where other species saw competition, humans saw collaboration. Where others sought dominance, humans sought solutions. This way of thinking was alien to the Deathworlders, who were used to viewing survival as a measure of strength and fear as a natural tool. Humans did not seek to intimidate. They simply worked, adapted, and endured. It was a subtle but profound form of power that slowly began to earn them respect. As the sun, or what passed for the sun on Krathul, set over the acid jungles, the human delegation gathered to rest and reflect. They were exhausted, but they were alive, intact, and stronger for the experience. The challenges had tested them physically, mentally, and emotionally, yet they had emerged with more confidence than before. They knew that future trials would be even more difficult, involving not just survival but combat, strategy, and mental endurance. Yet the first trial had already proven a critical point. Humans were not the weak, fragile species many believed them to be. They were survivors, innovators, and collaborators, capable of adapting to impossible circumstances and thriving where others might fail. By nightfall, as the alien stars glittered above the jungle and distant predators called out in the dark, the humans made a quiet promise to themselves. They would continue to approach every trial not with fear, but with intelligence, courage, and creativity. And the galaxy, which had doubted them, would soon see that underestimating humans was a mistake that could prove costly to anyone who did. Their journey in the Deathworld Summit had truly begun, and they were ready to face whatever came next. After surviving the acid jungles and proving their resilience, the human delegation faced the next phase of the Deathworld Summit, where mental strength and combat instinct would be tested. The challenges were designed not only to measure physical endurance, but to evaluate creativity, intelligence, and the ability to remain calm under extreme stress. Many species entered this phase confident, believing their natural adaptations or superior strength would guarantee victory. Humans, however, approached it differently. They understood that brute force alone would not win here. Instead, they relied on observation, analysis, and teamwork. Their calm and deliberate approach continued to unsettle the Deathworlders, who had never encountered a species so young yet so composed under pressure. The first test involved a telepathic predator, a creature capable of reading minds and exploiting fears. Delegates were placed in a simulation chamber where their deepest insecurities and anxieties were brought to life. Most species panicked. They saw visions of failure, of death, of their worst nightmares, and many faltered almost immediately. Humans, however, responded differently. Captain Hale had faced fear before, had survived real war and seen the horrors of battle that could crush the strongest minds. When the predator attempted to invade his thoughts, he held his ground, focusing on memories of leadership, teamwork, and the purpose that had brought him to the summit. The predator attempted to manipulate his fears, but Hale's experience allowed him to recognize the illusions for what they were. He remained calm, steady, and focused. Dr. Lin and Matteo displayed similar resilience. Dr. Lin focused on logic, analyzing the patterns in the telepathic projections to understand what the predator was doing. Matteo relied on improvisation, treating the illusions like problems to be solved rather than threats to be feared. Together they moved through the simulation chamber, not as frightened participants but as problem solvers. Other species looked on in disbelief, realizing that humans did not succumb to fear in the way that most delegates did. The telepathic predator, designed to expose weakness, found no cracks in their mental defenses. This unexpected strength began to shift the perception of humans even further among the Deathworlders. The next challenge involved a combination of combat and environmental hazards. Delegates were placed in an arena filled with treacherous terrain, shifting platforms, and creatures that tested reflexes and strategic thinking. Many species relied on natural weapons, claws, teeth, or energy projection to gain advantage. Humans, lacking such physical advantages, relied on observation, coordination, and ingenuity. Captain Hale directed the team carefully, analyzing the creature's patterns and determining the safest paths. Dr. Lin used her knowledge of alien biology to predict behaviors, avoiding traps and minimizing risks. Matteo, meanwhile, converted small tools into effective devices, such as temporary shields or noise distractions to divert predators. Their performance was remarkable. Where other species acted instinctively, humans thought strategically. They were not the fastest or strongest, but they were adaptable and unpredictable. Other delegates began to notice that no matter what the challenges were, humans seemed to find solutions that others had not considered. Their approach combined calm assessment, creativity, and precise action. The Deathworlders began to whisper among themselves. Humans were no longer just young or inexperienced. They were formidable in ways that could not be measured by raw power alone. One particularly tense moment occurred when a large, armored creature charged at the humans. The instinct of most species would have been to attack or flee immediately. Captain Hale, however, assessed the situation quickly and calmly. He instructed the team to move in a specific formation, using the terrain to their advantage, and employed a distraction tactic devised by Matteo. The creature, surprised and unprepared for such coordinated strategy, was forced to retreat. Dr. Lin then applied her knowledge to stabilize the surrounding environment, preventing other hazards from interfering. Their teamwork was seamless. To the observing Deathworlders, it was a combination of audacity and brilliance that defied expectations. As the challenges continued, the humans' actions began to change the atmosphere of the summit. What started as skepticism and mild amusement toward the young species gradually turned into respect, tinged with awe. Elder Deathworlders, who had watched countless delegations fail or withdraw, started to take note of the humans' unique approach. They realized that the human's strength was not merely physical or mental, but a combination of qualities: intelligence, adaptability, courage, and the ability to remain composed when others panicked. The phrase soft predator began to take on a new meaning. No longer a term of ridicule, it became a recognition of a species that thrived not through brute force, but through cleverness, cooperation, and resilience. During one of the trials, Dr. Lin was faced with a situation that could have ended badly. A toxic plant had begun spreading poisonous gas that threatened an alien team nearby. Many delegates ignored it, seeing it as someone else's problem. But Dr. Lin acted immediately, using her understanding of alien flora to neutralize the gas. Her actions saved multiple participants and demonstrated that humans did not only think about their survival, they thought about others. This display of compassion combined with intelligence impressed even the most hardened Deathworlders. It was a type of power they had rarely witnessed, the ability to survive while helping others survive as well. Matteo continued to innovate under pressure, improvising solutions when no standard tool could suffice. From creating makeshift pathways to devising quick devices for defense and communication, he demonstrated that human ingenuity could turn obstacles into opportunities. Captain Hale's leadership tied it all together. His calm decisiveness, ability to assess risk, and quick decision-making under extreme conditions ensured that the team worked in perfect harmony. Their unity and composure made them an unstoppable combination. By the end of the day, it was clear that humans had done more than survive. They had excelled. Where most species relied on natural advantages or sheer instinct, humans relied on thought, coordination, and courage. They had turned challenges that were designed to break them into opportunities to display their strengths. The Deathworlders, known for their ruthlessness and experience, were beginning to speak of the humans in a new light. Hale's quiet words, Dr. Lin's observations, and Matteo's improvisations had shown that humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and remarkably strong in ways that could not be measured by simple physical metrics. One elder Deathworlder approached Hale and said, "You come from a paradise world, yet you act as if you were born in hell." Hale simply nodded. "We had to make our paradise from hell," he replied. The words spread across the summit, a statement that would echo in the minds of all who heard it. Humans had endured unimaginable tests, adapted creatively to extreme situations, and maintained compassion and teamwork throughout. The other species began to realize that humans were not to be underestimated. As night fell over Krathul, the human team gathered in their quarters to rest and reflect. They were exhausted but satisfied. Each trial had been more dangerous than the last, and yet they had survived, adapted, and impressed even the most skeptical Deathworlders. They knew the next challenges would push them even further, testing their endurance, strategy, and mental strength, but they were ready. They had already proven that humans, though young as a species, possessed a combination of traits that made them formidable in ways few could predict. By the end of the fourth day, the humans were no longer seen as outsiders or fragile participants. They had become a source of curiosity, respect, and even fear. The Deathworlders had underestimated them once, assuming that youth and inexperience would be a weakness. Now it was clear that humans were not weak. They were survivors, innovators, and masters of adaptability. Their journey through the Deathworld summit had not only tested them physically and mentally, but had also changed the perceptions of every species present. Humans were no longer just participants. They had become an example of unexpected strength and ingenuity, a species that could challenge assumptions and redefine what it meant to survive in the galaxy's harshest environments. The final day of the Deathworld summit arrived, and with it, the tension in the air was almost unbearable. Every species present had gathered to witness the conclusion, eager to see who would earn the respect of the Deathworlders. Humans had already defied expectations in every trial so far, surviving the acid jungles, overcoming telepathic illusions, and displaying intelligence and teamwork in ways that left even the oldest species in awe. But the final council was different. It was not just about survival or skill. It was about making a choice, a statement, a declaration that could define a species' place in the galaxy. The human delegation knew that their actions in the final moments could leave a lasting impression, not just on the Deathworlders but on every observer in the galaxy. The council chamber was vast, carved into the side of a cliff overlooking the violent, glowing landscapes of Krathul. The leaders of the Deathworld species sat on high platforms, their presence commanding respect and fear. Delegates from every participating species were gathered below, awaiting the announcement of those deemed worthy to join the ranks of the Deathworlders in future summits. The room was filled with tension, and the eyes of the galaxy seemed to focus on the humans. Whispers ran through the crowd. Will they finally fail? Will their boldness lead to humiliation? None of the observers could predict what the humans would do. When the humans stepped forward, it was with calm composure. Captain Hale, Dr. Lin, and Mateo walked side by side, unarmed, their expressions serious but serene. They did not carry weapons of intimidation, nor did they make gestures of aggression. Every move was deliberate, showing confidence without arrogance. For a moment, the room was silent. The Deathworlders expected humans to show submission or perhaps plead for mercy, as many weaker species had done in the past. But instead, the humans spoke with clarity and authority. Hale addressed the council, his voice steady and confident. "We did not come here to join your club of killers," he said, his words echoing through the chamber. "We came to remind you that true strength is not measured by fear or dominance, but by who you choose to protect and how you use your power." The statement stunned the assembly. Many Deathworlders had never encountered such a philosophy. Their society and their tests were built on survival, ruthlessness, and the ability to intimidate. To hear a species speak of protection, cooperation, and restraint was shocking. The humans continued. Dr. Lin described how they had used intelligence and observation to overcome the trials, how cooperation and compassion had allowed them to survive where others relied solely on strength. Mateo explained the innovations and improvisations that had enabled the team to adapt to extreme environments. Each human spoke not to boast of their victories, but to demonstrate a deeper principle, that courage, intelligence, and empathy could create a type of power that rivaled brute force. The room was tense. Many species were uncertain how to respond. The Deathworlders themselves were silent, evaluating the humans carefully. No one had ever refused to join the ranks of the Deathworlders, or challenge their traditional values in such a bold and uncompromising way. Humans had survived, they had excelled, and now they were rejecting the very notion of dominance and intimidation as the highest measure of worth. It was not arrogance, they were simply demonstrating that there was another way to wield power, one that the galaxy had not expected. Then came the gesture that truly shocked the council. Rather than demanding recognition or privileges, the humans offered something extraordinary: their knowledge. Captain Hale and his team extended open invitations to share Earth's medical technologies, conflict resolution strategies, and cooperative programs with all species willing to learn. They offered solutions to problems that had plagued alien civilizations for centuries, from disease management to environmental engineering. This was not weakness, nor was it submission. It was an act of strategic generosity. The humans had survived the harshest tests and had the opportunity to dominate or claim superiority. Yet they chose a path of collaboration and improvement for all. The reaction was immediate and profound. Some delegates were confused, unable to comprehend this type of power. Others were inspired, seeing humans as a model for a new kind of strength. Even the Deathworlders, whose culture had been built on fear and dominance, were forced to reconsider their assumptions. Elder delegates whispered among themselves, acknowledging that humans had not only survived the impossible, but had also redefined what it meant to be strong. The term soft predators took on its final, respectful meaning, a species that combined resilience, intelligence, and compassion, capable of surviving and excelling in the deadliest environments without relying solely on violence or intimidation. For a moment, the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The humans' actions challenged the very foundations of the Deathworld Summit. The elders finally spoke, recognizing humans as worthy participants in future gatherings, but not in the way anyone had expected. They acknowledged the humans' courage, creativity, and unique approach to survival, but the humans did not claim a seat of dominance. Instead, they chose to walk away from the council with dignity, offering collaboration instead of competition, understanding instead of aggression. The galaxy had never seen a species leave a Deathworld summit with such impact, without having to fight or kill. As the human delegation departed Krathul, news of their actions spread rapidly across the galaxy. Species that had doubted humans, laughed at them, or assumed they were weak were now forced to reconsider. The story of humans surviving the acid jungles, outsmarting telepathic predators, improvising solutions under pressure, and finally rejecting domination in favor of collaboration, became legend. The galaxy began to speak of humans not as the youngest or weakest species, but as the peacemakers of Deathworlds, a title that captured both their courage and their wisdom. Back on their ship, Captain Hale, Dr. Lin, and Mateo reflected on their journey. They were tired physically and mentally, yet satisfied. They had survived trials that had been designed to crush them. They had earned respect without resorting to violence or intimidation. They had shown the galaxy a new form of strength, one built on intelligence, creativity, compassion, and the willingness to stand firm in one's principles. It was a victory unlike any other, a victory that did not belong to one species alone, but had the potential to influence the way all civilizations approached power, survival, and cooperation. The human delegation returned to Earth not as conquerors, but as ambassadors of a new idea. That strength was not only about surviving the harshest worlds or defeating the strongest opponents. True strength lay in adaptability, in cooperation, and in the ability to use power wisely and compassionately. The Deathworlders had expected humans to be fragile and easily intimidated. Instead, humans had shocked them, earning respect through courage and principle. From that day forward, humans were no longer dismissed as reckless or inexperienced. Across the galaxy, their story was retold as an example of how a young species could reshape expectations and demonstrate a new kind of power. They had survived trials designed to break the strongest species, excelled in the face of impossible challenges, and left a lasting impression that would endure for generations. Their legacy was clear: courage, intelligence, and compassion were formidable forces in their own right, capable of shocking even the most powerful and ruthless beings in the galaxy. The Deathworld Summit continued in future years, but every species now remembered the humans and the example they had set. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, a species that arrived as underdogs and left as legends, not by domination or fear, but by showing that true power could also be defined by wisdom, cooperation, and the willingness to protect rather than destroy. Humans had arrived at the deadliest summit in the galaxy, and their response had not only survived the trials, but had changed the galaxy's understanding of strength forever.